My name is Daniel Reeves, and I'm a firefighter from Hartford, Connecticut. The experience I'm about to share with you completely changed my life, and honestly, I don't think I'll ever be the same. It happened on a chilly morning, March 17th, 2019 to be exact. I remember it so clearly because it started off like any other Saturday. I was up early, laced my running shoes, and set out for my usual morning jog around the neighborhood. I never expected that morning to end with me fighting for my life. I had barely made it halfway through my route when I felt this sharp, searing pain explode in my chest. It was like someone had driven a knife straight through me. My vision blurred, and before I knew it, I collapsed on the pavement. The next few minutes were a blur, but I remember this strange feeling, almost like I was lifting away from my body. I was watching everything unfold from above, floating there as if I were nothing more than air. I could see myself lying on the ground, motionless. I saw a neighbor rush over, frantically calling for help. Moments later, I watched as paramedics arrived and began performing CPR. I should have felt panicked. After all, I knew that was my body down there. But instead, I felt calm, peaceful even. It was like I had been wrapped in the safest, warmest feeling imaginable. Then, suddenly, I was being pulled away from the scene, fast. Everything turned dark, but instead of feeling scared, I felt comforted, almost like I knew I was heading somewhere safe. I realized I was moving through some kind of tunnel, endless, quiet, and strangely calming. At the end of it, I saw this brilliant white light. It wasn't just bright, it was warm, and it seemed to draw me in, like it was calling me home. When I emerged on the other side, I couldn't believe what I was seeing. I found myself in a place that felt more real than anything I had ever experienced. The colors were brighter, richer, almost like the world itself was alive. Flowers bloomed in shades I can't even describe, and the air carried the most beautiful music I had ever heard. Every sound seemed to hum with purpose, like the whole place was built from love itself. Then I felt it, this overwhelming presence of warmth, comfort, and peace. It wrapped around me like an embrace, and in that moment, I knew I wasn't alone. That's when I saw her, my grandmother, Claire. She looked younger than I remembered, almost glowing with this radiant light. She smiled at me, and when she spoke, her voice felt like a song, soft, calming, and filled with love. She told me how proud she was of the man I had become, but then her face grew serious. She said, "Daniel, it's not your time yet. You still have things you need to do." I didn't understand what she meant at first, but before I could ask, she reached for my hand. The moment she touched me, everything shifted again. Suddenly, I was standing in what looked like a massive stadium, endless and filled with countless souls. At the center stood someone I instantly knew was Jesus. I don't know how I knew. I just knew. His presence was unlike anything I can describe. His love felt like it was pouring into me, stronger than words could ever explain. It didn't matter what mistakes I had made in life, what regrets I carried. In his presence, I felt fully known and fully accepted. It was like I belonged in a way I never knew was possible. As I stood there in awe, Jesus looked at me with the kindest eyes I had ever seen. There was no judgment in his gaze, only love, pure and overwhelming. It felt like he could see every moment of my life, every mistake, every regret, every time I had fallen short, yet none of it seemed to matter. I didn't feel ashamed. Instead, I felt this incredible sense of peace, like I was finally home. Then he raised his hand and gestured toward the souls that surrounded us. It was then that I realized the stadium wasn't just filled with people. It was filled with souls, countless souls, each one glowing with different levels of light. Some shone brightly, radiating warmth and contentment, while others seemed dimmer, almost like they were burdened with something heavy. Jesus explained to me that this place, what he called the third heaven, was a kind of resting ground for souls after they left Earth. He showed me one group of souls that seemed calm and joyful, peacefully resting in a beautiful, garden-like space. Jesus explained that these souls had lived good lives, lives of love, kindness, and compassion, and they were waiting in peace for their final resurrection. In another area, I noticed souls who seemed busy, actively learning, reflecting, and growing. Jesus told me these souls had made mistakes in their earthly lives. Some had hurt others. Some had been lost in anger, bitterness, or selfishness. But now they were being guided by loving teachers who were helping them learn and heal. But then my eyes drifted to another area, one that felt colder, heavier. I saw souls who seemed burdened with sadness, confusion, or regret. They weren't in pain exactly, but there was this deep sense of emptiness around them, like they had distanced themselves from the warmth of God's love. I asked Jesus what would happen to them, and his face softened with compassion. He explained that no soul is ever truly lost. Even these troubled souls still had hope. Angels and loving spirits were constantly reaching out to them, guiding them back toward the light. Jesus said that every single soul still has a chance to find their way home, no matter how far they had strayed. As I stood there, taking it all in, Jesus began to show me more. He explained that this place, this third heaven, wasn't the final destination. It was more like a waiting room, a place where souls could reflect, heal, and prepare for what was still to come. Some souls, he told me, were closer to moving on, their hearts full of love and peace, while others still had lessons to learn. I noticed one soul in particular, and to my surprise, I recognized him. It was my old friend, Mark, someone I had grown up with but hadn't seen in years. Mark had passed away in a car accident when we were in our early 20s, and I remember feeling devastated when I heard the news. Now here he was, standing among a group of souls who seemed to be learning. His face looked peaceful, even joyful. Mark saw me and smiled. We didn't need words. Somehow, I just knew what he wanted me to understand. He had been carrying guilt when he died, regrets for mistakes he had made, people he had hurt, and pain he had left unresolved. But now, he was learning to forgive himself and let go of the burdens that had weighed him down. He wanted me to know that even when we leave this world with unfinished business, there's still hope, still a chance to find peace and make things right. Not long after that, I saw someone else, someone I never expected to see. It was my cousin, Eric. He had struggled with addiction most of his life, and sadly, it's what eventually took him from us. I remember feeling angry after he died, angry at the choices he made, at the people he hurt, and even at God for letting it happen. But when I saw Eric in that place, my heart broke. He wasn't glowing with peace like the others. Instead, he seemed distant, almost lost. There was this sadness in his eyes, like he was stuck in his own regret. But what moved me most was that I saw angels, beautiful, glowing beings, surrounding him. They weren't forcing him toward the light. Instead, they were gently encouraging him, reaching out to him with patience and love. Jesus told me that even souls who find themselves in those darker spaces still have hope. No one is beyond saving. The love of God reaches even the most lost and broken souls, no matter how far they've fallen. All they have to do is accept it. As I stood there watching Eric, I felt this overwhelming sense of hope. Hope that no matter how broken or lost someone might be, there's always a way back. Jesus turned to me then, his expression filled with both love and urgency. He told me that this was part of the message I needed to bring back with me, that too many people on earth live in fear, convinced that their mistakes have pushed them too far from God's love. But that wasn't true. He explained that every act of kindness, every choice to forgive, and every moment we choose love over anger or bitterness has a lasting impact, not just on our lives, but on our eternity. Jesus wanted me to tell people that it's not about being perfect. It's about striving to live with love and compassion. Even when we fail, even when we make mistakes, the effort to do better is what truly matters. Then he showed me something else, something that shook me to my core. I saw moments from my own life, scenes that played out like flashes before my eyes. I watched myself comforting my daughter when she was scared, helping a stranger change a flat tire, and standing by my best friend when he went through a divorce. Those moments seemed small at the time, but now I could see how much they mattered. Each one rippled outward, touching people in ways I never realized. But I also saw moments I wasn't proud of, times I had lost my temper, times I ignored someone who needed help, and times I chose selfishness over compassion. The pain I had caused others, even unintentionally, became painfully clear. Yet even in those moments, Jesus didn't condemn me. Instead, he showed me how those experiences could become opportunities to grow, chances to learn from my mistakes and become better. The most powerful thing I felt in that moment was his love, constant, unwavering, and greater than anything I had ever known. He told me that this love was always there, waiting for anyone willing to accept it. No one, no matter what they've done, is beyond redemption. There is always a chance to turn back toward the light. After showing me those moments from my life, Jesus turned to me once again. His expression was calm, yet I could feel the weight of his words. He told me that my time in this place was not meant to last, that I had to return to earth and share what I had seen. I didn't want to leave. The peace I felt in his presence was unlike anything I had ever experienced, and the thought of going back to my old life, back to the pain, the stress, and the uncertainty, terrified me. I told him that I didn't feel ready to leave, that I didn't know if I had the strength to face life after what I had experienced. But Jesus smiled, not out of pity, but with the kind of warmth that makes you believe you're stronger than you realize. He reminded me that I wasn't alone, that I never had been and never would be. He told me that even in my darkest moments, when I felt like no one could hear my prayers, he had been there, and he always would be. Then Jesus gave me one final message, one I knew I couldn't forget. He told me to remind people that their lives, no matter how ordinary or difficult, have meaning. Every conversation, every act of kindness, and every moment of forgiveness carries more weight than we can imagine. He said that so many people spend their lives searching for purpose when the truth is they already have it. It's found in the love they share with others. Before I knew it, everything began to fade. The warmth, the light, the beautiful colors, all of it slowly drifted away. I felt like I was being pulled back, moving faster and faster through that tunnel I had passed through before. Suddenly, I gasped for air and opened my eyes. I was back in my body, surrounded by paramedics. One of them told me I had been gone for over 10 minutes. They couldn't believe I was alive, let alone conscious. But I knew what I had experienced was real, more real than anything I had ever known. That day changed me forever. I no longer fear death because I know now that it's not the end. It's a doorway to something greater, something more beautiful than we can imagine. But more importantly, I know that what we do here, right now, matters. Every choice to love, to forgive, or to show kindness shapes not only our lives, but our souls. If you're listening to this and feeling lost, I want you to know there's hope. No matter what you've been through, no matter how many mistakes you've made, God's love is waiting for you, always. You are not beyond saving. There's always a way back to the light, and it starts with the choices you make today. If this story touched you in any way, please consider sharing it with someone who might need to hear it. And if you'd like to hear more stories like mine, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Thank you for listening, and may you always remember, no one is ever too far gone to be found. That's the message I've carried with me every day since that experience. A message of hope, redemption, and the power of God's love. For a long time after I came back, I struggled to put everything I had seen into words. How do you describe something so incredible? Something so powerful that it changes the way you see life itself? There were moments when I questioned myself. Moments when I wondered if maybe it had all been some kind of dream, some hallucination caused by my heart stopping. But deep down, I knew better. What I had experienced was far too real, too vivid, and too life-changing to be anything but the truth. The love I felt in that place wasn't something my mind could have created. It was something greater, something divine. Since that day, my priorities have completely shifted. I used to get so caught up in the busyness of life, working long hours, stressing over things that, in the grand scheme of eternity, didn't really matter. But now, I take time to slow down. I go out of my way to show kindness, even in the smallest ways, because I know those moments are far more powerful than we realize. I've learned that something as simple as offering a smile to a stranger, listening to someone who's hurting, or forgiving someone who's wronged you can change everything, not just for them, but for you as well. Most importantly, I've learned that God's love is for everyone. No one is too broken, too lost, or too far gone to receive it. Whether you've lived a good life or spent years feeling like you're drowning in mistakes, that love is still there, waiting for you. If you feel like you're at the end of your rope, if you feel like there's no hope left, I want you to know that God hasn't given up on you. He never will. If my story has meant something to you, I ask that you take a moment to reflect on your own life. Ask yourself, are you living with love? Are you making choices that bring light to the people around you? Because those choices, no matter how small, have a greater impact than you may ever know. If you'd like to hear more stories like mine, please consider subscribing to the channel. Your support helps us continue sharing these incredible experiences of hope and faith. And if you know someone who's feeling lost, share this message with them. It could be exactly what they need to hear. Thank you for listening. And remember, no matter where you've been or what you've done, God's love is waiting for you. All you have to do is reach out. That's really the heart of my story. The truth that no matter how far we feel from God, He's never far from us. Since that day, I've realized how much we take for granted. The people in our lives, the opportunities to show love, the moments where we can choose kindness, they're everywhere, yet so often we overlook them. I used to think purpose was about success, about reaching goals and accomplishments. But now I know that true purpose is found in the way we love others. It's in the simple things, showing patience when someone's struggling, forgiving someone who hurt you, or reaching out to someone who feels forgotten. Those moments, those seemingly small acts, are what make the biggest difference, both in this life and in the next. I know now that life is fragile. One moment, I was just going out for a jog, and the next, I was standing before Jesus, feeling His overwhelming love surround me. None of us knows how much time we have left, and that's why I believe it's so important to live each day with intention. Every morning I wake up, I ask myself, what can I do today to leave this world a little better than I found it? So if you're hearing this and wondering if your life matters, it does. Every choice you make, to love, to forgive, to encourage, it all matters more than you can imagine. Even when life feels overwhelming, even when you feel like you've made too many mistakes, know this: you are loved. There's nothing you've done that can separate you from God's grace, and there's no place too dark that His light can't reach you. If my story has encouraged you, I'd love for you to share it with someone who might need a reminder that hope is real. And if you'd like to hear more incredible stories of people who've experienced God's love in powerful ways, please subscribe to the channel. Thank you for listening. And remember, no matter where you are right now, you are never too far from the love that's waiting to bring you home.